Welcome to How You Pictured It, the podcast for creative entrepreneurs ready to grow their business in a way that feels good. Here you'll find actionable tips and tools to create the business and life you pictured. I'm your host, Kate Hyde with Dear Kate Brand Strategy. Let's get started. I'm excited to share this interview with you. I spoke with Kayla Burch of Kayla Burch Coaching. She is a mindset and business coach. We talked a lot about the power of choice, self-sabotaging behaviors, and creating your own reality. I'm going to let you jump right into it. Enjoy. Kayla, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself for us?
Oh, thank you for having me. I am a business and mindset coach. And I always like to say that business is just that sign on the door. That's what everyone thinks that they need. And that's what brings them to me. But what we really do when we start to get into it is we start to work through the inner goings of everything that happens in our brain and our mindset and our self-sabotaging behaviors and things that pull us back. And so we really go deep, deep, deep into all of that mindset work.
Cool. How did you get into your business?
Yeah. So I actually started off as a health coach. So that's how I came into coaching. I was like, I'm going to be the best health coach there ever was. And so I started doing it and I loved it and I liked it and I was good at it. But there was something that was just out of alignment. I wasn't showing up on social media. I didn't like showing up in that capacity. But what I did like when I was coaching people, I like to get into their brains. I like to help them uncover these different things. So it was related to health, but it wasn't actually health. And so then I started to pivot into more life coaching. And then I started to discover a lot more about my strengths within that, which leads me to the business that I have today.
Very cool. Okay. So you started out as a health coach and then pivoted into this mindset, kind of business coaching. How did you kind of imagine your life when you started your business? Does it match that picture?
Yeah, that's such a great question. So it doesn't. So when I started as just a kind of a side hustle. I just wanted something that was a little bit more me. So I had my own boutique. I hated doing that. I wanted to switch. I have 4 children. So I have 4 babies. I homeschool my 4 babies. And so I wanted something that was just for me, where I would give back and I'd set into this version of me that I could show up as. And so when I did it, it was just a side hustle. My husband was working full time and it was just things I did. If I did it, great. If I didn't, great, fine. But now my income is actually I'm the breadwinner, if you will, for our house. And so things have completely shifted. My husband doesn't work full time anymore. I've retired him from his job. Now I do what I do. And so no, it's absolutely, I would have never imagined that this is what I would be doing and this is what it would look like, just to kind of like long story short.
That's wild. So are you feeling like you're living the life that you kind of wanted though, with still being full time?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Because my full time with what I get to do is not full time, right? I'm not working 40 hours a week. I'm not doing all that. I get to create the life that I want to be living. And so it's still a beautiful process. So it's absolutely everything I dreamed of without knowing that it was exactly what I wanted.
That's really cool. And you homeschool 4 kids?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. How old are they?
My oldest is 13.
Okay.
They're all about to have birthdays, but now it's 13, 9, 8, and 5. My youngest will be 6 Saturday.
Okay. So they're all school age now then.
All school age.
Oh my gosh. That's crazy.
They're all school.
I can't imagine homeschooling 4 kids. We did homeschool for like 1 year of pandemic, which not really, It's not the same thing, of course, but, and my kids were 10, 8, and 6 at the time. And it was a lot. Like I just can't even imagine. Yeah. But that's awesome that you're able to have a business that allows you to do that. Very cool. So today we're talking about kind of the power of choice and change. Can you tell me like what kind of drew you towards those topics?
Yeah. So I have a lot of, just kind of history in my life. And there's been some traumas and some things that when I started to look back on, I started to realize the choice that I made in those moments and how big of a difference things would be in my life if I made a different choice, right? And not a different choice of action, but a different choice of the way I was viewing it, right? And choices can be those everyday choices and they can be major, major life shifting choices. And what we have to realize is that we have that control. Like, so for homeschool, for example, right? You didn't have that choice. Right. It was just thrown upon you, right? But then we have a choice after that. Well, how am I going to choose to move forward with this? How do I choose to see this reality? Well, I would say for the large population, it was a lot of resentment. I mean, we'll just call it what it is, right? People are like, I don't want to do this. Don't make me do this, And so we felt like our choice was taken away. I homeschooled way before it was cool or before. So, so it's always been a choice for me, right? But if someone forced me into that, I might not have had the same reaction. But what we can realize is that we can, even if it's a forced situation, we can step into a place of choice, and that can completely change our experience. It completely changes our internal world without our external world having to shift too.
Oh,
so that's what brought me to it. Just that awareness, just that idea that, oh my God, this is powerful, right? We create everything from right here, and we have choice in doing that.
Yeah, that's awesome. We were kind of forced into the homeschooling, but I feel like we were able to look at it as a privilege. And that really did help us, see the big picture of it and how it could benefit us instead of being resentful towards it. Yeah. Okay. So let's delve into the concept of creating our own reality. What does that mean to you, and how do you apply it in your personal and your professional life?
Yeah. So when I think about creating your own reality, I really think about going deep inward. And again, it comes down to choice. So you can choose to suffer, right? You can choose resentment. You can choose challenge. You can choose all these things. And that's going to create a different reality. So, or you could choose triumph. You can choose lesson. You can choose all these different things within the same experience. And so that's how I define it. And a lot of people push back on me for that. They're like, well, I've been through this really traumatic experience that I didn't ask for. I didn't say you asked for it. Right. I'm not saying you asked for it. I'm saying you can choose how you experience it from here on out. Right. And people, it's a really hard concept because it goes against how we've always been. And people are like, I don't want that much power. I don't want to have to choose. Well, whether you like it or not, you're choosing. Right. You don't actually have a choice in choosing. You're making a choice no matter what, no matter if it's conscious or subconscious. And so once you bring that into awareness and you step into that fully, things really shift. So for me personally, I've been through a few, I'll just use an example. So after I had my first daughter, I was 19 when I had her, and I got very, very sick afterwards, which is why I decided to be a health coach, right? Because of my health struggle. So I was in a wheelchair, and in that moment, I was really sick. I was having 5 seizures a day. People thought I was crazy. They didn't know what was wrong with me. And I just felt like this huge burden to my family. 19, I'm probably about 20-ish, late 20, maybe 21 this time. And I just thought, I can't, no more. My daughter can't watch me suffer like this. My husband can't be my caregiver. I'm a burden to my entire family. I have to have a babysitter for myself.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Because I can't be alone with my daughter. And I just I can't do it anymore. That was my first face-to-face with choice. And I thought I could choose to sit in this wheelchair and suffer. I could choose to get healthy, or I could choose not to be here on this earth anymore. And I thought, okay, well, I guess I'm going to choose to get healthy, right? I'm going to choose to stop identifying with someone who has Lyme disease and who's a Limey in a wheelchair. And I'm going to stop identifying and choosing all these things that I was doing. And so my mindset immediately shifted, right? And then of course, I was like, it's a whole story, but then I'm well, right? Then I'm out of that wheelchair. Now I'm healthier than I've ever been. And I never went backwards because of that mindset and that choice. And that's a moment that you can hold. It's a catalyst for power, right? And empowerment and making choice, because I could still be there right now, right? Or I could not be here on this earth. It's all about choice. And it's such a powerful thing. And so that's how I apply it personally, is I realize no matter what is happening externally. So by me making that choice, I didn't immediately get better. I wasn't just like, oh, okay. And I got up and walked out of the wheelchair. Right. But I made the choice to stop identifying with a certain space, to stop suffering, right? To stop attaching my reality to suffering and started attaching it to change and growth and possibility and hope, right? So for me personally, that's how I apply it everywhere in my life. There's always room for choice. There's always room for change. And I'm always going to want to choose the thing that gets me what I want,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to choose suffering or choose something that I don't want, even if the external experience is that of suffering, right? Because that just is rinse and repeat through life. There's suffering on the outside, but you choose how you experience it. And for like my business, same thing. I could choose not to show up, right? I could choose to be really, really uncomfortable and not put my voice out there, not put my more controversial opinions out there and like push back when people are like, that doesn't even make sense. And it's like, but it does if you just choose it, right? I could choose to step back. I could choose to hide what I really think, but I make the choice to be seen. I make the choice to be present. I make the choice to grow and put my voice out there every day over and over and over. And it shows, right? And it empowers other people to do it the same. So it's just kind of like an example in a way that I actually implement that into like my daily life.
Yeah. Those are some hard choices to make sometimes too.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
In your experience, what are some common self-sabotaging behaviors that people often unknowingly engage in?
Yeah. So one of a really big one is a little bit of what I was just describing, where people hold themselves back, where they don't get visible. And so they make that excuse of, I don't want to be seen. I don't want to be heard. So I'm not going to put my voice out there, whether that be social media or podcasts or whatever, we'll just get kind of tangible with that. So they just don't show up, and they make excuses. Why? Well, no one wants to hear from me anyway, or I didn't get accepted into that. And why would they want to hear from me? And so they really pull themselves back. So that's a big self-sabotaging behavior, is just by having fear of being visible. So that's a big one. We also have fear of success and fear of, so it's fear of outcome. We're fearful of being successful, and we're also fearful of failure.
Yeah.
More people are scared of being successful than you would think. It's actually more people are fearful of success than failure, because if you think about it over life, we failed since the day we were born, right? We've tried, we've punched ourselves in the face as a baby, trying to figure out our hands, right? Like we've done it until we've succeeded. However, as an adult, success is scary because success changes things. If you would have told me 5 years ago that I was going to start as a health coach, and then I was going to somehow transition into this place I'm in now, and I was going to be the one bringing in the income for our family, I might not have done it, because it would have scared me so bad to have that responsibility that I couldn't even imagine touching, right? So we have this fear of actual success. And so if we don't reach the success, then we don't have to do anything with it, right? So we just pull ourselves back and create these subconscious beliefs, or we let the subconscious beliefs run our reality.
So talking about those subconscious beliefs, what kind of subconscious beliefs do people have, and how do they affect you both positively and negatively?
Yeah. So our subconscious beliefs are created from since the day we were born and then before, right? Because a lot of our subconscious beliefs that we have are just beliefs we've picked up from our environment. So our family, which they picked up from their environment, and so on and so forth. And so they affect us by being very limiting. So we use money mindset as one. A lot of times people don't know how they think about money. It's just something that they do or don't do. And so their behaviors are subconscious. So people who always grew up poor, right? Who just didn't have any extra money. They have no money, right? And so they were just living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And then you meet somebody who then starts to do well, and they start to get extra money, but somehow they're still living paycheck to paycheck to paycheck to paycheck. And it's like, how is that? You would think that you would have more money because you came from being poor. But the thing is what happens when you take that identity away of living paycheck to paycheck. You're a different person. Your mindset is with money is that you live paycheck to paycheck. So what are you going to do? You're going to create the circumstance to live paycheck to paycheck, right?
Yeah.
And it's a wild thing because people are like, absolutely not. And I'm like, yes, if you look around and you start to look at these subconscious patterns and beliefs, then you start to see that a lot of these things aren't actual. You're not making choices. You're just flowing with something that's pushing you somewhere else without being aware of what's driving it. Right. So then you stop draining your bank account every month. You stop getting into debt because now you realize that you can be somebody who has savings and extra. You don't have to identify with an old thought. So that's so the benefits of it. So the negative would be that, right? We're running rampant and doing things that we're not completely consciously aware of. And the benefit of, subconscious beliefs is more of a, perceived benefit. because we're not really gaining that much from it. It's just usually safety.
Okay.
Right? It's keeping us safe. It's keeping us stuck. It's keeping us from getting into a situation that's maybe uncomfortable. And it's not saying that all subconscious beliefs are bad, but usually the ones that we're talking about that we want to bring into our awareness are those that are actually sabotaging us and creating barriers.
Yeah. So how do you find those subconscious beliefs? If they're subconscious, how do you figure out what you've got going on in your brain? And
so I think it's a lot more once you become aware. So once you become aware that there are subconscious beliefs running your show, then you can start to ask yourself, where is this coming from? Why do I think the way I do about money? Right? Why anytime I get a level of success do I completely self-sabotage that? Why do I derail every single time? And so you take it from frustration and irritation with self and judgment for self, and it's just very inquisitive. How does this happen? Why do I do this? Well, what's the belief beneath the belief, beneath the belief, beneath the belief? Right? With that belief deep down there is probably that you're not worthy of having money or having success, and that you're not capable of attaining it and sustaining it. Right? Boom. Your subconscious belief was just brought to the awareness. Now you have to do something about it, right? It's not subconscious anymore. It's conscious. And now it's going to be a conscious thought. And when things are conscious thoughts, then you can make change surrounding them.
yeah. Yeah. So that's how you get to that choice part, is by finding first the awareness and then getting to that. So what is one piece of advice you would give to someone who feels stuck and unable to create the reality that they desire? So you've got a website for your small business, but you're not really sure if it's working. I've got a brand new free resource that gives you a grade for your website, like old school report card. It's a super easy to use checklist. You'll go through, answer questions, and at the end, you'll get a grade for each page of your site, plus your site overall. And you'll also get next steps to what you need to do to make your website convert and connect with your dream clients. So you have a site that sells your services for you, and you can get back to life just how you pictured it. Head to dearkatebrandstrategy.com/report card to get that free resource now.
Yeah. So it just goes back to what I was just speaking of. Like when you feel really stuck and you're kind of like at a loss, then start to just ask yourself questions. Allow yourself to be uncomfortable, because you're going to start to dig up some things that are uncomfortable. Right? It's not comfortable knowing that you're doing this to yourself. It's not comfortable knowing that you're creating a reality that you don't want. That's extremely uncomfortable. And so it's just setting and breathing into that discomfort, but knowing that once you do and once you move through it, you're going to create a life that you really do want, right? That you do want to experience. And so it would just go back to allowing yourself the space, the container, the permission to ask and answer questions. We ask ourselves questions all the time,
Yeah.
but we don't actually ask it in a way that we'll answer. We're like, why are you so stupid? Why do you keep repeating that? Right. And it's like, that wasn't, you were asking, right? That was more of a statement. And so ask in a way that you actually want to answer and you're willing to give the answer.
Can you give me some examples of some questions you'd ask yourself?
Yeah. Yeah. Perfect. And so one thing that I like to do is I like to tap into my, my emotional body. So whenever I'm having a physical reaction or an emotional reaction to, somebody, I'll ask myself why. What's triggering an emotional reaction within me? Because not the person, they're just my mirror. They're just my mirror to show me where I need to focus, right? What was that discomfort that this person just triggered for me? That insecurity. What was that? And so the examples would be just checking in with the emotional state and then asking deeper of where that emotion came from. Happiness, right? Why was I happy in this moment, right? Why was I joyous? Why was I jealous? Why was I scared? Why was I withdrawn, right? Why am I doing these things? Why do I feel like I want to throw up? Why do I want to run away as fast as I can? And actually ask yourself, be your own best friend. Actually be curious about why you feel the way you do and not judge it, right? That's the biggest advice I could give you. Stop judging your own self and just out of curiosity, ask why that came up. Why did this come up for me? Why am I experiencing this? Why does this person always make me feel a certain way? Why do I always have this reaction to this person? What is it that I need to be aware of? Right. And that subconscious belief is just you're going to allow it to come to the surface.
So how can we use these things in our businesses to make us better business owners or more successful business owners?
Yeah. So one of the first and foremost things is with visibility, right? Because when you're not worrying about what other people are thinking about you as much and you're solely coming from your own validation, then you start to show up, right? I don't care what somebody thinks about me on social media anymore. I don't care if they agree with me or they disagree with me or they like me or they don't like me or they don't like the way I talk or they think I talk too much with my hands. Like it doesn't matter. And so when you stop worrying about what the outside thinks about you and you only worry about what the inside thinks, right? What's happening in here, then you will become a force of nature. You will show up time and time and time and time and time again, repeatedly in your business in places that were so uncomfortable for, you wouldn't have been able to even fathom you being in that position. So that's the biggest thing is when you start to take control and you start to make choices for you, only you, not for everybody else, then your business is going to shift. It's going to be the catalyst for your business growth.
Yeah. So besides just showing up, what other places can we make choice in our business based on ourself, like pricing or what other ways can we use that?
Yep. So you could use that as pricing is a great one, right? Well, once you deal with your money beliefs, right, your money baggage, then you can start to pay yourself more. You can start to believe in the worth behind the price. That's where a lot of people falter, right? That's where a lot of people don't ask for the sale. That's why they don't show up. That's why they don't do these things. They don't feel like they're worthy of receiving a certain price. And so once you start to believe in yourself and you start to dig through those subconscious beliefs, you'll start to pay yourself. You'll start to allow and accept money for your services. And so that's one place. And then another place is putting yourself out there, right? So when you start to feel more worthy and you stop worrying about the judgment of others and you stop worrying about all those external things, you're going to put yourself in positions to get more opportunity, right? You'll put yourself in a position to have an opportunity for something else that's going to be a catalyst for your business growth, right? You just remove so many different barriers externally, like physical barriers, once you remove the internal barriers as well.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. Going back to kind of the choice piece of this, you were saying in that story about when your first child was born and you had 3 choices. How do you suggest people find what their choices are?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think it's just a lot of awareness. So it's just looking around. What can I do right now? It's not what do I want to do? Don't ask that question.
Okay.
Right? It's what can I do? Right? Because if it's like, what do I want to do? Well, I probably wanted to sit there and wallow in my own self-pity, right? Like that's probably what I wanted to do, which is why I was there for so long. And so it's what can I do? So you want to get the possibilities first. What can I do here? Right? Lay it all out on the table. No, what will I do? What's possible for me to do? What can I do? And then you can start to sort through things from that. Because if you start to put like, what's reasonable for me to do, then now you've just boxed yourself in.
Right.
And what's reasonable in your mind at that moment may actually not be very reasonable, or maybe you feel like it's not reasonable, but it is. So just ask yourself, what are my possibilities here? How can I see this differently? And another thing I like to do, I like to look at things from a third party perspective, right? As if I wasn't even there, right? As if I'm just the observer of the situation that's happening. So you can ask yourself, what would I tell a friend? How would I tell a friend to go through this? Like, what would I share? What could I see for their choices? And that removes you and a little bit of the emotional attachment to it.
Okay. So what if we did like a hypothetical here? So let's like make up a situation. For example, you're getting some inquiries, but they're all turning you down or ghosting you. How would you look at that from this creating your own reality kind of viewpoint?
That's a great one. So I would first, so if you are my client, right? So you're my client and you're like, listen, I'm putting myself out there. I feel like I'm really putting myself out there, but nobody's accepting my inquiries. And I would say, where are you not accepting yourself? Right? Where in your life are you not accepting yourself that is now transmuting that energy to somebody else to not accept you? Because there's something out of alignment. There just is, right? So there's that limiting belief that's blocking you. So we'll go back to the money mindset. So your money mindset's blocking you, right? So now that's just projecting onto everybody else, right? You don't feel worthy of having someone say yes to you, right? So we have to identify that. So you would just go through that. So I always just mirror those questions back.
Okay.
Where it's like, if this is happening, if this is a situation, then it's like, well, where am I doing that to myself? Because everything out here, all of this is a mirror. Everything's a mirror. So if it's happening to you, it's because it's happening internally in some form or another.
Ooh, that hurts. That's hard.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I want to speak to that because that's how a lot of people feel. They're like, I don't like that. That sounds terrible. And I'm like, but it's empowering, right? Because it's not about other people anymore, right? It's not about them liking you or receiving you or not. It's about you liking yourself. It's about you receiving yourself. It's about you opening up to your true self and allowing it to be seen and shared, because that right person is going to have it. Because there's an energetic block when we don't feel that. And other people can't completely step into our space because of it. And so it's empowering, right? It's like, crap, now I have the power, right? All these people that have rejected me, they don't have any power.
Yeah.
I have it. So I can make those shifts. I can ask these inquiries. I can have these evaluations. I can show up. I can do this. I can change. I can choose, right? There's a lot of power behind that.
Yeah. That is a lot of power. If our listeners could take away one thing from our conversation today, what would it be?
Yeah. Just to allow yourself to choose. Allow yourself to choose you. Allow yourself to choose your reality. Allow yourself to be open to personal responsibility, like we were just speaking of. Those are all the same thing. It sounded like I just said a bunch of different things, but it's all the same, right? You're just allowing yourself to come through.
I like that. And I think it's something that we talk about a lot here on the podcast, is like really finding what your priorities and your values are and like reflecting that out and building your business kind of around that. So that is a great piece of advice. Where can people find you online, and how can our listeners learn more from you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram. That's where I hang out the most. So you can find me at Kayla Burch on Instagram. And then my website is KaylaBurchCoaching.com. And so you can find me over there as well. And it also has a list of ways to contact me and some offers I have right now.
Perfect. What offer are you most excited about right now?
Ooh, thank you for asking. So I am launching my membership. And so it's a low ticket membership. It's $47 a month, but it is jam-packed full of so much of the things that we talked about today. So I built it specifically for business owners who need to really clear their mindset. So it's all about the mindset. There's daily mindset tips from me every single day. We have guest experts in business. We have guest experts in spiritual development. We have lots of different accountability set up. It's a networking group as well, where you get to connect with people from all over the world. So I already have quite a few members, and they're all over the world. So you get to expand your business that way and also learn and connect with me directly. And so I can help you shift that mindset. But it is something I am very, very excited about.
That's very cool. Well, thank you so much, Kayla. This was a great conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode of How You Pictured It, I'd love for you to leave a rating or review on your favorite podcast player. It helps grow the podcast and bring more guests like Kayla to the show. I would love to hear from you. If you want to DM me, send me a message over on Instagram at Dear Kate Brand Strategy. I love talking to you and can't wait to hear from you. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.